Thank you for choosing the 172 series Manifold mixing station. This quick installation tip video will go over what you need to know to get started with the installation of your new Manifold mixing station. The 172 series is a high quality, high performance combination of several different components, first of which is going to be a manifold, the next is going to be a pump, a mixing valve, and a hydraulic separator, all providing this in one small package to greatly simplify your installation. When you get your 172, one of the first things that you should notice when you open the box is going to be a nice set of installation instructions. It goes over in detail how the unit operates, as well as a manual that is included with the pump, so be sure to read those. When you receive the 172, it will come in two separate boxes labeled 1 of 2 and 2 of 2, so make sure you have both of them. From there, we're going to go over some very basic assembly of the unit that you have to do in the field, so let's do that. In the first box, you're going to have your assembly that includes your isolation valves. At these connections, you're going to provide your supply and return from your heating system. From there, you're going to have your hydraulic separator, which will incorporate a check valve, and then you're going to have your mixing valve. The mixing valve will then attach to your circulator, and separately, you're going to have the upper elbow, which attaches the circulator over to the manifold. From there, you're going to have a temperature gauge that slides right into a dry well on the mixing valve assembly. And then you're going to have your sealing washers that allow you to put everything together with a leak-free seal. In the second box, you're going to have the actual manifold attached to the brackets, and then from there you're going to get a set of heavy-duty anchors that you can mount in either drywall or straight into wooden studs if you've got those. It'll also come with a set of caps for air testing, as well as a set of labels so you can individually label each port on your manifold. Now let's move on to the assembly of the components in your first box. You're going to take the assembly that already includes your pump, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to slide in that temperature gauge into the mixing valve dry well just to get it out of the way. Then you're going to take your sealing washer that's going to connect your upper elbow to your circulator and put that guy together. Now let's take our circulator assembly and attach it to our manifold. What you're going to want to do with these fiber sealing washers is wet them down with a little bit of water. It helps to release the adhesives and create a good seal in your union connections. So we're going to take those sealing washers and slide them inside the unions on the circulator assembly, and then we're going to slide over our manifold and put those together. Once you've finished assembling all the union nuts from the circulator assembly to the manifold, you're going to want to actually snug up all of the union nut connections all over the assembly just to make sure everything's good and tight. So now that you've got your 172 series assembled, let's go over the individual components in a little more detail. Again, at the bottom here, you're going to have your isolation valves. This is where you're going to connect up your boiler supply and return, or your heating source supply and return. Your supply is going to go on the isolation valve on the left, and your return is going to be on the right. These are going to be 3/4 inch female NPT connections. And just above your isolation valves, you are going to have a hydraulic separator with a built-in check valve. This hydraulic separator, in some applications, will not need to be used and can be removed. An easy way to figure that out is if you're actually using a pump in your system to pump to this manifold assembly, you're going to want to leave that hydraulic separator in there, so that way it isolates the circuit over on the boiler from the pump and the manifold assembly that you've got here. Now, if you are expecting the pump on the manifold assembly to provide or pull hot water from your heating source, you're going to want to remove that hydraulic separator. And removal of that hydraulic separator is pretty straightforward. First, you're going to take a nice wrench and loosen up all of the union nuts that are attached to the hydraulic separator, and then you can remove the isolation ball valves from the bottom here. I've already loosened this whole assembly up with a wrench. You'll notice once I pop those isolation valves off that you are going to have a set of sealing washers on all of these connections. We'll go over that in just a second. So now we've removed the hydraulic separator portion of it. Again, there's some sealing washers in there, and what you're going to want to do is connect the isolation valves directly up to the mixing valve assembly. You will want to make sure to reuse that sealing washer that came out of there in each connection to the mixing valve assembly. And then once you're done putting them all together, just snug them right up with a wrench again. And just above the hydraulic separator, you're going to have your mixing valve assembly. The mixing valve itself is adjustable from 80 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. You're going to have that nice temperature gauge in the return, so that way you can measure your return water temperature. As far as circulators for the 172, we offer two. First of which is going to be this one right here, which is going to be a simple 3-speed circulator, and then we also offer a high efficiency ECM pump that's going to be variable speed with an auto adapt feature. Above that pump is going to be your upper elbow assembly that's going to have a temperature and pressure gauge built into the top, as well as a purge valve, and this purge valve helps you to bleed off any air at the top of that elbow during your initial startup. So moving on to the manifold, at each connection where you're going to connect up your PEX is going to be a 3/4 inch Euro conical type fitting. This fitting will only accept our 680 and 682 series fittings that I'm laying out in front here. The 680 series is going to be for standard PEX, and the 682 series is going to be for PEXL PEX. To put those together and get it onto the manifold is very straightforward. The first thing you're going to want to do with your PEX is you're going to slide over the nut, and then you're going to slide over the olive, you might also call it a ferrule, and then from there you're going to have the adapter fitting that goes from the PEX over to your manifold. Once you get that all put together, you're just going to slide it onto the manifold and snug it down with a wrench. You can also use one of our special manifold wrenches to make that job a little bit easier to get into those tight spaces. If you purchased a manifold with a few extra loops, maybe in preparation for an addition to your home, what you're also going to want to get is our nice cap that we offer to cap off any unused ports. So you're just going to put that guy together and snug that up with a wrench as well. And any unused ports are going to be ready to go whenever you make that addition. Another nice accessory to add is going to be our nice little snap-on temperature gauges. These snap right onto any of your PEX piping to show you what your temperature is on each individual loop of PEX. These will come in handy if you're setting up your flows based on temperature drop across each loop. On each loop of your supply header, you're going to have one of our unique twist flow combination balancing valve and flow meter. Once you get your system completely filled up and ready to start up, the adjustment of these balancing valves is pretty straightforward. On our supply manifold, on each individual loop, you'll notice one of our unique twist flow combination balancing valve and flow meter. Inside that flow meter there, you'll notice a little orange indicator. That guy is going to move up and down to tell you what your flow is on your individual loop there. Now, in order to adjust it, you'll pop this little white cap off, then you'll flip it upside down, and then you can adjust your flow in each loop, set it, and then put the little white cap back on, and away you go. On each loop of the return header, you're going to notice a white knob. That's going to be an isolation valve for each loop of the return header. These are particularly useful if you are going to be filling and purging the system, so you can purge one loop at a time. These isolation valves can also be removed and replaced by one of our thermoelectric actuators. This is great for those applications where you're going to be zoning the manifold loop by loop and you want to be able to control each one individually. At the very end of each manifold, you're going to have one of our automatic air vents. On those automatic air vents, you're going to have one of our hygroscopic safety vent caps. These hygroscopic safety vent caps allow air to leave the system, but as soon as they see any moisture, they completely seal off. So by design, they don't close off completely when they are dry. So if you do need to pressure test your system with air prior to filling, we provide a set of black plastic caps so you could do that. Just below each automatic air vent, you're going to have a drain valve with a 3/4 inch garden hose thread connection on it. You're going to need to use these to fill and purge your system. If you're looking for more information on how to fill and purge your system, or more information on manifold mixing stations in general, be sure to check out issue number 7 of our technical journal named Hydronics. You can find them on our website. I hope you found these tips useful. If you have any further questions, please be sure to contact your wholesaler, your rep, or us directly. And thanks for watching.